Can't hear you.
Your audio's not on.
You're muted.
That looks like our new dune crossings with the post and ropes.
A little further south.
Just a bit.
All right, Commissioner, you're free to proceed.
Okay, thank you. Let the record reflect that all the members are here with the exception of Donna Mabry and Dan Miller. Just quickly, I wanted to tell you there's a new rule, and you might have already heard about it, but our committee meetings can only last 1 hour and they can only be held once a month, which is really going to be tough to get things done. So I keep the agenda very much to a minimum. So hopefully what we can do is decide on the agenda item and be able to move forward with some recommendations. I realize that's not always going to happen, but given the fact that we can only meet once a month for 1 hour, you know, to try to get things done, we really have to focus on the item at hand. So with that,
can it be a different day than Monday?
it can. It doesn't have to be Monday, but it doesn't. We still only can have one meeting a month.
Okay.
So, yeah, we'll talk about that at the end. We'll come up with a meeting date. But given that we have such little time, we'll move forward with Bruce. Bruce is, as you saw from the agenda item, he's got a presentation on Sharrows and possibilities of bike box. And the police chief, Chief Banks, is here, as is Director of Public Works, Kevin Williams. So it's important that they see this presentation and that we can make our recommendations hopefully today so that we can move forward with these things. So with that, Bruce, we
okay.
Just want to share your screen.
Now, is that something
Yeah,
has to be done?
If you cursor over the bottom of you'll see a bar at the bottom, and one of the buttons says share.
Okay. I thought it had to be done by the
No, I don't think so.
host.
yeah, you can do it.
Okay.
There's Donna. Donna Mabry is here.
Share.
Here you go.
Okay, is this, you see that?
Yes.
Yes, good.
Okay, so it was advertised as talking about Sharrows, but the idea of this gateway topic is to basically finish the job that DelDOT has started. All 5 gateways to the city have bike lanes or bike trails there already. But as soon as you hit the city limits, it all ends. So the idea is let's finish the job so that somebody can ride a bike all the way downtown to shops, restaurants, farmers market, and concerts at the band shell.
Absolutely.
Without their car. That's the goal here. And I've taken 2 different approaches to try to explain what I'm talking about. First, with Google Maps. So the green lines are Google's opinion of where bike lanes and rideable bike streets are. All I did was add the fuchsia solid lines for where I think bike lanes can be built. There's room. And then Sharrows when there's just not room, mainly where there's parking on both sides. So I don't know if my cursor is visible, but once you cross coming in Rehoboth Avenue on a bike lane, you hit the bridge and that ends. There's no reason we can't put a bike lane the rest of the way down Rehoboth past Egg and somewhere along there where the parking picks up, we have to shift to Sharrows the rest of the way to the band shell. And this is two ways, the same coming out. Sharrows out to past Dogfish. There's room for a bike lane all the way around the circle to the bridge. Down here to the south, when you leave the bike lane on Route 1 at State Road, it would be great to have a bike lane all the way around and into the city. I'm not quite sure where the city limit is. I think it's near this dog leg in the street.
A little
Anyway,
further down.
okay. But then once you get onto the inside the city, it's probably only going to be room for Sharrows unless you sacrifice parking on State Road. Maybe not. There may be room for a bike lane there. We'd need Del.Dot engineers to take a closer look at that. Okay. And then finally, coming in from the gateway coming in from Silver Lake, that's a wonderful ride around the lake until you hit the bridge, and then everything changes. So I think Sharrows starting on the bridge all the way up Bayard, 2nd Street, all the way across to Olive is appropriate. Some people would probably prefer to get off of Bayard and go over to King Charles. Good choice. There's room for a bike lane the whole way up to Philadelphia. Then it's got it. First Street is terrible. It needs, Sharrows is about as good as you're going to get. Okay, and then I have a verbal description of what I just said if I went too fast. And then I took a stab at drawing what it is I'm talking about here. So that bike lane, it would be a continuation of what's already on that lane coming in from Route 1. I went out last year with my tape measure and I measured these lanes. That lane is the same width as the one that already has a bike lane. So they can't tell me there's not room. There is. But what I like about this example, I think it's important to show the bike riders, here's where you belong. And stay over there. You don't cross through lanes and willy-nilly go through the circle. Get in your lane, go around and on down into, okay. But it also is communicating to the cars.
Yes.
There's bikes here and they're allowed, they belong over here. I think it's what's missing. Everybody talks about, oh my goodness, the circle. Circle's fine. It's fine. I ride it almost every day. Okay. Gordon's Pond up in the north end. The road coming down from the park has an informal, I guess I'd say, bike lane using the shoulder. That just needs to be formalized, I think, with a little bit of paint and logos painted on. But that all comes to an end when you get down to Surf Avenue. And I'm suggesting two things. One, bike lanes down Henlopen all the way to the park in both directions. We've talked about bike lanes on Surf, and with any luck, we'll make progress there. But bring it down the lake to the fishing bridge. There's room for bike lanes all the way to that bridge. And then the fun starts, you're on First Street. There's nothing you can do except Sharrows. My personal opinion is parking on First Street has to go. Cars can't even navigate it, but that's my personal opinion. Okay. And then the final one, Junction Breakwater, that's the one that brings up this crazy bike box. What's a bike box? It's being rolled out in cities across the country. DelDOT recently tried to experiment with 3 of them across the state, and the one here in Sussex County got canceled by our rep. I'm not quite sure why. So we never got the test bike box here in Sussex County. Anyway, this is what they look like. You just create a space for bikes to get a head start, and you tell cars you got to stop about 6-8 feet back. And it's usually painted green to make everybody know that it's here. Not a big deal, but for bikes, especially at this intersection at Church, it's huge. If you've ever ridden there to that intersection, there must be 6 or 8 different ways that bikes tackle that intersection. Some stay left in the lane with the cars. That's where I do it. Some stay to the right where the bike lane is, but that's a crazy place to make a left turn. Some people get up on the sidewalk and go down around this bend and then look for a gap to jump over. It's just, in fact, it's a fun thing to do. Take a beach chair down and just sit on a summer day and watch the craziness. Anyway, the goal is to get onto the inbound side of Rehoboth Avenue. The red lines, that's the DelDOT project that's going to start, I think, this week, maybe next, where they route the junction breakwater traffic on a new lane behind the motel to the sidewalk and put them on the sidewalk, which I pleaded with them. I said, that's really a bad idea, really bad. And even if the bikes survive the trip, they're dumped off at the circle. Anyway, the whole purpose is to give bikes a recommended and safe way to get onto this bike lane to head downtown. If they're not going to the park, if they're not going to the museum, that's where they should be, in my opinion. And then it occurred to me, while you're at it, the other side of Church Street could use a bike box. An added benefit of a bike box is right on red is now impossible. You don't have to think about whether you want right on red at this intersection or that. It's impossible. The cars are 8 feet back. They can't even see if there's traffic coming or not. Okay. And then finally, David mentioned to me, there's other places where bike boxes would really help. And he's right. I was embarrassed that I hadn't thought of it myself. So all the lights at Rehoboth Avenue would benefit. Yes. And they already don't have right on red. That's already been turned off. Let's formalize it. Let's tell the bikes, take your head start, move to the front of the line. I don't think it would affect the flow of traffic at all, but it would really get the bike traffic more, not just safe, but just more orderly. And that's all I had to say. I can unshare somehow, I guess.
Can you send us this file, Bruce?
Yes.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that would be helpful.
Yeah, that's why I included the words, if you want to.
Yeah, include it all. That would be great. So let me go to the committee members and for comments before we go to the chief and to Mr. Williams. So anyone have any specific comments about what's been presented so far? I mean, it's a lot of detail, I know, and so we aren't looking at it in front of us. Yeah, go ahead, John.
Yeah, I don't think we should ever put anybody on Rehoboth Avenue. I know you and I have disagreed about that, Bruce, but we have other streets and there's other streets that can be used, and our committee has worked for years to try to avoid using Rehoboth Avenue. That thing around the circle looks like it's good, but it's not. That's a wicked place. I come out of there almost every day in my car, and it's a wicked place just to get into the circle. Then if once in a while there's a bike crossing the street right there at that coffee place, and that even compounds it. The circle is just a mess. I'm starting to agree with our commissioner who thinks we shouldn't have that circle anymore. But since we're going to have the circle for the time being, I don't think we should put anybody anywhere around that. Now, the other gateway coming in from Dewey, we were told by the Greenways people years ago that we could put a bike lane right up the middle of that street because it's so wide. I know the commissioners, the city commissioners want to do something about parking on that street. So if the parking is different, that might make a change. But there certainly is room for a bike lane on that street.
What street is that you're talking about?
He's talking about
Coming
King
in
Charles.
from
King
Dewey.
Charles? Okay, okay.
King, yeah, I couldn't think of what it's called. It's not First Street there, it's King Charles. Yeah, we have a report showing that that could go right down the middle of that street.
Thank you, John. Anyone else?
Just a couple of questions. First of all, it's excellent, Bruce. Thanks. There's a lot of good stuff there. But in terms of there's still even some of your suggestions are outside the city. So whatever would happen with Church Street or whatever would happen with the Gordon's Pond and syncing that up, we would not be able to do on our own. I don't know if DelDOT would work with us, but in order to make it seamless, we still have to work through them, I assume anyway. That's one thing. And secondly, you mentioned the no right on red. Isn't that only in season that those signs are taken down out of season? And in general, I guess I'd love to hear what Chief and Kevin say about all this too, because they have knowledge that we don't.
Right, absolutely. But let me finish with committee members who might have some comments. I'd like to do that.
The comment that I have regarding First Street and Second Street and Rehoboth Avenue and the bike boxes, if we're outside the city at Church Street, we have a left turn lane. So it's simple, if you're a cyclist, to get in that left turn lane and turn left. If you're trying to cross Rehoboth Avenue at First or Second, you have a combination lane, which is a straight or left or a straight or right, depending on the time of year. And you've got to figure out, do I want to be in the straight lane? Do I want to be in the right lane? You can't really be in the middle because there's no space. So it's really difficult to get across at both of those places. And yet they're controlled intersections, which should be safe. But I find it safer to go around the circle on my bicycle than it is to cross at First or Second.
I agree.
Donna?
David, I'm thinking that DelDOT told us that they wanted to make that crossing on the bridge two ways. In other words, we never would get on the other side of the street. We just stay on that side up to the library. Isn't that what they told us?
Yes, that's what they're rolling out in the next month or two.
Yes, it's going to be a bi-directional bike lane on the north side of Rehoboth Avenue Extended from Church to the Canal Bridge. Then it becomes a free-for-all because you got bicycles going both directions on the side of the street, and we can't keep them off the sidewalk in front of the museum, which is a real danger zone.
And I took my complaint to DelDOT at one of the public hearings they had about that project. And I said, a lot of cyclists, they're coming down Junction Breakwater, their destination is not the park. They're coming to Rehoboth to go for lunch. They need to get downtown. How do they do that? And they didn't have an answer. And I said, well, the way I do it is I go down Church and make a left and get on the bike lane that's already there. I just want help making that left turn. And David's right. It's quite manageable for an experienced rider to just get in the left lane and wait for the light to change.
It's part of growing up with bicycles. When you start riding in grade school, you're riding on the street. The sidewalks never even occurs to you at that age. So I always rode on the street. And Bruce spent 35 years as a bicycle commuter, so he's got more experience than all the people in the city of Rehoboth combined. But
Yeah,
it's
well, the thing you have to remember is during the summertime, we have a lot of people who are not experienced bicyclists.
correct.
I
And they're
shiver
going up
every
Rehoboth
time I see them
Avenue.
on Rehoboth Avenue.
They're
You know, it
going up
scares me to
Rehoboth
death.
Avenue.
I'm
We
sorry,
can't keep
Bruce.
them off. We can't keep them off Rehoboth Avenue. They're going up Rehoboth Avenue. And
Well,
so
we should try.
how do we save people from themselves? We get them to turn right on Canal Street. And a lot of them do that. Living on Canal Street, I can tell you a lot of them do.
Yeah,
But it's the experienced people that are turning right that know there's no place for them on Rehoboth Avenue. But the people that ride their bicycles 1 or 2 weeks a year or 1 month a year, those are the ones we have to save because they're the ones that are most at risk.
Donna, you're muted, Donna. Donna, you're muted.
You got to use your cursor, Donna, and go to the upper right-hand corner
There
There,
you
how's
go.
of
that?
your picture. There you go.
Okay, thank you. Well, lots. I agree with most of what's been said. I little clarification on the bike box. Like Bruce, like you say that, like the idea if there's a bike box, like the bicyclists coming behind, they should automatically move through the cars and go up to the bike area, the box area, and wait at the light. Like, see, now I would never do that. You know, I always just wait my turn in a line. But is that, I'm just wanting clarification if that's how you're supposed to use a bike box. That the bicyclists, as they approach the light, they should pass the cars and go up and wait in front of the cars?
Yes, the bike boxes have different configurations depending on what the intersection calls for. But basically, you have a bike lane leading up to that intersection, typically on the right-hand side. And in that picture I had, there was this handle along the right-hand. Yes, you're passing the cars, but you're in a bike lane. And then all the bike box does is tells the cars to stop early, creating this opening in front. It's not, you're not going to ride down like between 2 rows of stopped cars or anything like that.
Well, I guess how I approach toward all these questions is when I'm riding, I just go by the general rule, follow the rules for cars. So that's like at the church light. Yeah. If I'm going to make a left-hand turn, I get in the left-hand lane and I signal I'm turning left. If I'm going to go right, I'm going to be in the right lane and I'm going to signal I'm turning right. If I'm going straight, I'm going to be in the middle of the straight lane. I think when I get to the circle, yes, I take the circle. I go around the circle and I always signal, you know, that if I need to change lanes to go all the way around the circle to get over to Columbia. And I think the Del Dots thing to do a 2-way bike lane there is crazy. It's nuts. I think they're just trying to link that one big long trail and not thinking about, no, there so many other riders are coming in and yes, going down to Rehoboth downtown. I guess I think we can direct bicyclists to Rehoboth Avenue because they're going to, but I think we just use Sharrows. I mean, I can't see putting in bike. I guess I lean more toward the Sharrows than actual official bike lanes. And my other thought, there's so many ideas here. I think the other thing, I'm kind of at a point where First Street is so bad that I think the city seriously think about removing parking on First Street for like maybe 4 blocks there, from like certainly from Wilmington, you know, down to maybe Maryland, and create more space for bicyclists because that's very congested, and I don't think the city would necessarily lose that many spots. But I think I'm on board with the overall project that, yeah, we need to like do some more direction for people in town. And I think people, the real inexperienced people, the ones I worry about are the families with young kids. And I notice those parents are very careful. They avoid the dangerous places. They protect those kids. And I think they seek to avoid congested areas as it is. And I don't know how to, part of it is, I mean, people who know Rehoboth, they know which way to go. They know where the bad traffic is and how to avoid it. It's like newcomers that would be struggling. And that's the biggest challenge, I think, is how to help them. It's
Well,
complicated.
that's right. I agree with that. Yeah, there's a lot of good information here. I think I'll hold off on my comments right now and go to the chief and to Kevin Williams. So whichever one of you would like to speak first, please do.
Kevin, would you like to start or would you like me?
I think you got it, Keith.
I would just add a couple of things that certainly that I've been told with respect to the work that DelDOT's about to do there. So it will be 2-lane bike lane on the north side of the bridge, and it will be in the bridge lane, not on the sidewalk. And when they come across the bridge, then they will dead end that inbound bike lane. They will have to exit and get onto, their Grove Park by the canal dock. There will also remain an inbound bike lane on the south side of the bridge to accommodate all the folks that come in from, they live out on Route 1 or apartments out there, or whatever, that commute in on bike in the mornings, get to work. So there will still be an inbound lane only on that south side of the bridge. Other than that, that's about it for me.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. That's good information to know. Chief?
Good morning, everyone. I think the first decision is going to have to be made by this committee to decide what to forward to the commissioners for a vote. Is, do you want to have traffic or bicyclists on Rehoboth Avenue? And yes, they're already there. I get that. But as John and others have mentioned in the past, there's always been a decision kind of to keep people in and direct them in other areas and all. I think too, just keep in mind whenever you do a bike lane that it's only works, in my opinion, and probably some others, when there's parallel parking. And when you start getting people can back out of positions, it probably doesn't work as well, and you need to just do Sharrows at that point. You mentioned Henlopen Avenue as a bike lane. In theory, that would be nice, probably, but I think you'd have to go with Sharrow's again because it's inconsistent with where people can parallel park. Some lawns go out right to the edge of the roadway, others have parking, so it would be all over the place. It's not a consistent straight road as you may think. And there's no curbs down there to designate, so some people don't let people park on their lawns and all that. So I think it just works better with Sharrow's, just my opinion. And I agree. I don't think you can do a whole lot on First Street until they decide to give up parking spaces. I think that would make it safer. As far as the boxes go, I'm not against them. They definitely work. I see them around different cities and all. It just has to, again, be decided on if that's the route we want to go, because I don't believe it's a project you can hodgepodge. It needs to make sure if we're committing to it that it needs to be done and done correctly. That's only the comments I have, unless you have specific comments.
Bruce, if you would put that first screen up, if you would share that screen again. And I just want to talk a little bit about sort of my thoughts on this. And I think it'll be easier if you have that screen up.
Okay.
So the next map, the bigger map. Thank you. So, I agree with the chief in that we want to have a recommendation that takes, everything into consideration as much as we can. So I don't know, certainly, there's been some, different opinions about where people on the avenue or people not on the avenue. I think we have to understand that there are going to be bicyclists on the avenue, whether we tell them to be there or not. And so what we have to do is try to make it safe for them. And the only way we can really make it safe for them is to alert vehicles that there are people who will be on that will be on the avenue, be on Rehoboth Avenue. We can have signage, and when this is probably a different conversation, but it is related. We can have signage that would encourage people to stay off of the avenue, especially those people who are just basically with their kids and just taking a ride around town. The people who are going into town or going to, to for lunch or whatever they're doing in town, and that's a different story. So my thinking on this is there's some what I would consider some low hanging fruit that we certainly want to be in a position to recommend moving forward. And I have a question about, I guess, to both the chief and to Kevin about the bike lanes. My experience with bike lanes have been that they are there's a lane that it's demarcated with white on either side and painted green down the middle, so it's very clear that that is something that a lane that's going to be used by someone else. Although cars will sometimes drive on it, but the reality is that's the lane for bicyclists. And I just want to know from both Chief and Mr. Williams' perspective in terms of implementing it, one, or the thoughts about whether that's going to be appropriate in the area suggested. So whichever one of you'd like to go first.
Kevin, if you want to just comment as far as construction and type, if it's even feasible. Still on.
Yeah, no, I'm still on, just working the mute button. It all depends upon, width, right, for me. So, I mean, if we can put them anywhere you want to put them. But I'd look at the traffic impact from you, Keith, to see what would be feasible or not with respect to causing more problems than they're solving.
So what it looks like to me, looking at this map, and there's part of it that's not shown, but we can still talk about that, is the suggestion is State Road, part of Rehoboth Avenue, King Charles, and Henlopen. Is that all? Bruce, is that all of them? Whoops, I think we lost him. We did.
I know, going back to Henlopen, when the street was torn up for ocean outfall and the pipe replacement, that we had a suggestion, and Donna may remember this, and John might also, that we had a suggestion, well, let's take advantage of that opportunity and make Henlopen Avenue wider to accommodate bike lanes on both sides. And that was rejected, not as severely as the pedestrian zone or the one-way streets, but it was still rejected because so many people park along there. And yet there's a continual flow of people with wagons going to and from the beach walking, who basically have to walk in the street to get up and down Henlopen Avenue. So at some point, that street needs the same adjustment to basically mirror Ocean Avenue or Ocean Drive, where there's a de facto bike lane, walking lane on both sides. It's heavily traveled. And DelDOT's philosophy is to get people around Rehoboth. Our philosophy is to get people in Rehoboth and spend money. And our worst situation would be we have to get more bike racks. That to me is the goal ultimately, to help the businesses.
Okay, so here's my thinking on this, Kevin, and well, everyone, that the state road, the piece that Bruce showed for State Road seems very doable to me, and I would like to hear comments from others about that. It seems like that's going to be a harder nut to crack out there on Henlopen, and that's perhaps only we can deal with Sharrow at the present time. And as far as King Charles, we've got a whole issue that we have to solve with crosswalks.
Yeah.
And this whole idea with a median or something there would be ideal, then we could do that. But I think that that's a larger project that we probably can't tackle this year because it's going to require dollars for construction. So for me, it looks like low-hanging fruit is bike lane on State Road, Sharrows on Henlopen Avenue, and perhaps, and this is the one that I have the most trouble with in terms of deciding whether it's makes sense to recommend it, is partially a bike lane on the avenue and Sharrows. Anybody care to comment on that?
I think just if you do anything on Rehoboth, I'd just say Sharrows. I don't think a designated bike lane would be helpful.
If we did Sharrows, we could go all the way to the ocean. Bike
Yeah.
lanes, I think from Bruce's measurements, we can only get to 2nd Street. And,
Right,
and a good chunk of that final block would be not parallel parking. Cars backing out from the summer house, 2nd Street would be a little awkward. So I'm in favor of Sharrows all the way up and down both directions, canal to ocean and back.
You know, I
That'd
have
be
feelings about it on the circle. I mean, because while I agree that they shouldn't be in the circle, they are going to be in the circle. And what Bruce was saying about the bike lane there being a way to not only give them safe passage, but to notify cars that there are bikes there and that they have a right to be there. You know, is it possible to do? I mean, I like what he had drawn in, I have to say, on that part, the bike lane on the circle.
Well, then maybe we can look at shortening it to make the bike lane around the circle and just down to 3rd.
Well, the problem I would have with a bike lane there coming from the bridge to the circle painted on. What if you have to go all the way? You're going, 3/4 of the way around the circle. You've got to put the bike lane that way because, I mean, how's a person if you're not just staying on Rehoboth Avenue, you're going to go on around to Columbia.
Well,
Here's
what
so
I'm
that's
thinking.
why a bike lane is confusing. That's why I think.
But
I mean, I feel as.
Why would you do that, Donna? If you
Why
wanted
would I
to
do
go,
that?
if you wanted to go to Columbia, wouldn't you turn right there at the museum? Left at the museum.
I'm not going to do that 2-lane. I'm not going to take that 2-lane thing the state's going to put in because I think you never know when you're going to meet a bicyclist coming from the other way, a pedestrian. I'm quite comfortable when I come off of Church Street, just swinging a left and staying on the south side and coming down. And I just use, people, we don't talk about this, but I use a lot of hand signals to let the auto people know where I'm going. And I have a mirror so I can see what's behind me.
Sure,
So
but you're an experienced rider, so it makes a difference. We're trying to protect those people with families and
But
so.
Donna has a good point about having to continue it because since the bike lane is on the south side, then people might very well come in the way she talks about. So that
It would have to be circular to make
I
any
don't
sense.
I don't know if there's room for it circular. I really don't.
yeah, I just think, and I think one thing
Great
concept that's hit me while we're talking is I think bike lanes may be different in a small resort town like Rehoboth versus a more urban situation where you want to encourage commuters on bikes. And like I've been in, large European towns where they had designated bike lanes. And those bikers need those lanes. It's a different situation here. And I just think when I'm biking around town and I just feel I'm entitled to all the lanes if I need it. If I need to make a left-hand turn, I'll get in the left-hand lane. If I'll stay right as well as I can. But it's just sort of like, I need access to all the lanes, not just one bike lane. I don't want to be stuck in a bike lane.
Got it. Okay, so I'm just trying to figure out our consensus here. It seems like now we're like leaning towards Sharrows on both sides of the avenue. And Bruce has not gotten back on, but perhaps David, you can let us know what the appropriate distance in between Sharrows, whatever is the recommended.
75, the international standard is 75 meters.
75 meters, okay.
And the first one begins 10 meters before the sharing of the roadway. So that Kevin gave me the numbers for Silver Lake. So that was 445 feet outside dimensions. So the first Sharrow would begin 10 meters before you get actually physically onto the bridge. Then there would be one more, possibly two more in each, and same thing in the other direction, going back to Dewey. And then another thing that came up a while ago was Lake is a one-way street, where we've talked about it recently, where the speed bumps are unidentified. They're just black globs there on the road, no white paint, no triangles, no nothing. There was a suggestion made that maybe it would make sense to have people turn right onto Lake and have a bike lane on the lake side of Lake to get over to King Charles, because there's plenty of room there. There's plenty of width there on Lake to have bike lanes on both sides of that street. In that one block section between Bayard, first over to King
Bayard.
Charles.
Bayard. The street's
Bayard.
called Bayard.
John, I'm going to trust you. Bayard. Stokely and Bayard. I'm getting them down. It's only taken me 25 years to learn them.
I'm right with you there, Dave.
Okay, so just in order to try to get some things done here,
I think your itemization's good, Pat. What the things you were itemizing before sounded good. You know, a bike lane on State Street, Sharrow's on Henlopen. So I think you're right with your idea of low-hanging fruit.
right, and Henlopen Avenue, I think we really do have to put Sharrows there because it's heavily trafficked and the cars can go fast, and it's a reminder to the people that there are bicyclists there. It's fun. Again, as far as much as I'd love to do something with King Charles, we can't really do anything this year with that. The bike boxes, though, I think that's a real interesting idea. And it's, although what Bruce was talking about was out of our jurisdiction, outside of town, what David has suggested, those two areas, so I believe it's what, State Road? Which ones were they, David? Do you remember? The map's not up.
State Road, I recall from our last meeting, and Keith or Kevin may know more about this, but there was Walter Brittingham, who's like the encyclopedia of these things, was talking about State Road and possibly sidewalks on the west side of State Road, which I don't know anything about, it's never come up before. But State Road has ample width if there's not parking on both sides. Right now we've got line parking on the ocean side of State Road, but not on the other side. So car parking on the west side of State Road is kind of infrequent, but I have to defer to Keith and Kevin on that. I just don't know.
Okay, so we're talking about a bike box on State Road. Was it First and Second Street, which we were also talking?
First and second are where it's confusing because of the changes in the direction, whether you could make a left turn or go straight across. So,
but I think the thing what Bruce was saying, you have to have a designated bike lane approaching the box.
You have
so
to
if
have
we don't have designated bike lane, there's no reason to have any boxes.
It's really hard to have a box where there's no bike lane to access it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so really then what we're only talking about at this point then, because the only bike lane we're really talking about is State Road. Is that correct?
Right, and the one that I've talked about repeatedly is in the re-landscaping of Olive, Maryland, Lake, 3rd. There's an opportunity there to actually create one in the city to show people what it's like in an intersection that I remember from the city manager was designated as having, quote, too many bicycles, unquote, which was to me a scary statement. Too many bicycles to me that's a good thing, not a bad thing.
Right.
I want to be where we have to figure out where to put more bike racks. I want to become bicycle friendly.
Okay.
All the people whine about parking and not enough business, and all these people on bicycles generally are coming to town to spend money.
Okay, so David, actually, now that you bring that up, for our next agenda, if you would go ahead and everyone else, go ahead and put together where you think bicycle racks should be, additional bicycle racks, and we will look at that because that's something that we definitely can do. And we'll talk about that at the next meeting and hopefully be able to recommend that to the commissioners. Meanwhile, Chief and Kevin, do you have any reactions to our thoughts in terms of recommendation of Sharrows on Rehoboth Avenue, Sharrows on Rehoboth Avenue, bike lane on State Road. I think those are the three that we're now talking about, and a bike box on State Road. Reactions from the two of you?
I would say whatever we're going to do, if we're going to paint a bunch of Sharrows on Henlopen Avenue, the board's got to say okay, right? Because anytime we do something over in some parts of town, you get all kind of screaming and hollering. So I would want some sort of vote from the commissioners to say, yep, here's the plan and here's what we're going to paint on the roads. Otherwise, we'll just be putting them down and taking them back up.
Oh, right. No, this is just the recommendation. What we're doing is making a recommendation for the commissioners. We'll vote on it, on what we recommended, and then the commissioners will have to decide.
Right. Okay. We can certainly put down whatever they approve.
Okay.
And from what I recall, Kevin, on Silver Lake Bridge, there you were just looking for where to put them. We were green lighted to get them done at just exactly where they need to go.
LDOT would have to approve, right? Right now, I think they say they're supposed to stay on that little bitty sidewalk that comes across the bridge and so on the state-owned roads, I think they do have to.
So who owns Silver Lake Bridge?
It's my understanding that's a DelDOT.
Yeah,
Street all the way to include Byard after it gets into town.
Okay, Chief?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with the Sharrows after the commissioners and all approved where they want it at and spaced apart. So that's fine.
Okay. And the bike lane and the bike box on State Road?
I'm a little bit hesitant on that one. It's only without seeing a concept exactly where we'd put the bike box at on State Road, just because I know Kevin's working already with the intersection of Munson Street and
Grove.
we just want to make sure that it's not interfering with some plans that's already moving forward.
Okay, so then going back to the idea of low-hanging fruit of trying to make a recommendation here sooner rather than later, we can at least make our recommendation for Sharrows on Rehoboth Avenue and Henlopen Avenue. Does anyone care to, if there's no other comments, I'll entertain a motion for those. Anyone?
My motion would be we recommend Sharrows on State Road, Byard, and Rehoboth Avenue. Based on the experience we had when we were doing the snow emergency route, I think when we present to the commissioners, we would like to present them with our ideal recommendation.
Okay, so you've added Byard to the mix, but you've left out Henlopen.
Henlopen Avenue also, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I just turned pages. I got to go back a page. Yes, we should ask for what's really appropriate and safe. That's what we should ask for.
Okay, so now we're talking about Sharrows on. So you're saying don't worry about the bike lane on State Road. Go with Sharrows on State Road, Sharrows on the Avenue, Sharrows on Henlopen Avenue, and Sharrows on Byard. Yes.
Yes.
Right.
I'll second.
Okay. So if there's any more other comments before the vote here. So all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye. Nay. I don't want to see anybody on Rehoboth Avenue. It just scares me to death.
Okay. Well, we can't keep them off. This is the whole idea, is to try to make it safe for them. But the motion passes 4-1. So thank you for that. And I will write this up, and I don't know that I'll get it into today's for Monday's to discuss, but hopefully I will, at least on a discussion stage. It won't be voted on by the commissioners, but we can at least let them know what our recommendations are on that. So,
Pat,
yes.
Pat, I have to leave. My wife has a doctor's appointment online. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I've got to leave. But I want to recommend that we spend some more time on that circle area. I think with the new playhouse and everything, it's just, I mean, we've had enough problems already. It's just going to be exacerbated. So can we put that on the agenda for next time?
To talk about the circle, sure. I'll
Yeah.
put that on the agenda. And I understand that Mondays are not good for you. Is there another day that's not good before you go?
Tuesday's much better.
Tuesday's your better day.
Yeah,
Okay. Very
and
good.
don't do it on Thursday because they're having training.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, John.
Hi, John.
Pat, I have one question. When you talk about making these recommendations, and maybe this is a question for the chief and for Kevin, we're not talking about a capital budget expense to do this year, right? It would just be a relatively modest cost to do these sheriffs if it gets approved, or what?
Yeah, I'm not personally aware of what the cost for doing those is. I know we do them in-house, so I don't know that the cost would be a factor, but prioritization of what, Bill and his assistant do with respect to painting.
Okay.
Putting up signage, it would be a time constraint, not necessarily a fiscal constraint.
Okay, I just wanted. Okay. So if we don't get it approved, I mean, if it didn't get voted on by the commissioners till after the budget's adopted, it still means we could get it done this year, depending on all those other factors, timing factors.
I certainly believe so. I mean, it's not a big budget number, certainly.
Okay, thanks.
Bruce, we're sorry we lost you, but we went ahead and had to, because of, the time constraints and everything else, we went ahead and took a vote. And right now we considered this all low hanging fruit, and it's just a stepwise kind of thing, I guess, at this point. But it was agreed that on and voted on by the committee that we would have Sharrows on Rehoboth Avenue on both sides. We'd have Sharrows on State Road, Sharrows on Byard, and Sharrows on Henlopen Avenue. And that's where we are. We voted on that. It'll be recommended to the commissioners for a vote, hopefully on a March meeting. I hope to have a discussion about it with the commissioners at the March workshop. John had to leave early. He asked if we put on the agenda next time to talk about the circle, which we can do. But I also want to have on the agenda, as I mentioned earlier, that I want everyone to come up with ideas of where we need additional bike racks. So those are the two things for sure on the agenda next time. The idea of the bike box right now and the bike lane, we've put that off. There's some issues with it that the chief sees potentially. So we're, as I say, we're going after what we know we can potentially get done. So we're getting close to the end of our meeting here, but does anyone have other things that they want to recommend for the next agenda?
I think long-term, Pat, we've got to work toward becoming a bicycle-friendly city. Our neighbors to the north are bicycle-friendly. Newark is bicycle-friendly. The state of Delaware is bicycle-friendly. But if you look at the list of towns around the country, we've got a state with DelDOT that really wants to be bicycle-friendly and is pushing hard to be bicycle-friendly. And as a city, we don't look very good. And I think it's something that makes sense long-term to get into our agenda slowly but surely and really try to do the same thing that Lewis has done. Because the Rehoboth-Lewis loop through Cape Henlopen State Park is really popular.
Right.
And it just gets busier and busier all the time, to the extent when Bruce and I talked about it a while ago, he prefers to stay out on the sidewalk along Route 1 because it's less crazy.
So if you can point us in the direction of those things that will be considered to make us bicycle friendly, that would probably be helpful.
I'll send a link to the site that I found after I read about Lewis and the Cape Gazette, and then that got me going down that pathway. So I'll send everybody a link to that site.
Okay, very good. All right, so that would be good. We'll have that information. I don't know whether we'll have a lot of time to talk about it necessarily in the next agenda, if we're talking about the circle and where racks should be placed.
And then the other thing, Pat, is the autonomous shuttle that I get to experience in Dunloring. There seem to be now some private companies doing the urban electric vehicle route privately with four rows of seats. I'm just starting to see that pop up where people are just doing an independent service, a bit like an Uber and a Lyft. But if you've seen the one that the Rehoboth Hotel uses to get back and forth to the beach, and the Avenue Inn, I think, has one to get back and forth to the beach. There are now people using those driving around in other beach areas and picking up people, hop on, hop off.
Right, that's sort of what I sent everyone about Ride Freebie. It's a very similar service.
This would be more like the guys with the bicycles and Dewey kind of thing, only with a 4-row golf cart.
Right. Did you see the presentation from Ride Freebie?
Yes.
Okay, so it's similar.
I love that stuff, but again, that's like one-way streets. There's just so much pushback. And as Kevin just mentioned, when we start talking about doing things on Henlopen Avenue, his phone's going to ring off the hook.
I know that they never get passed, but so we'll see what happens with that.
Along those lines, you had sent that proposal from VIA that was more than just a ride sharing service. It was a whole study that they would do for traffic management. It's very interesting.
It is very interesting, and I just that's going to cost money, as you know, and so that's probably not going to be for this year, unfortunately. We can talk about it.
Well, I mean, the study isn't a huge amount of money. I guess that's what I'm wondering is when would it come up on our agenda? And obviously not next meeting, but maybe the one after.
I guess maybe it would be okay if it's okay with all the committee members that we could just find out from the commissioners if they would intervene something like that before we drive ourselves crazy going through all the details of making a recommendation. Do you think that's a good way to approach it, Susan?
I have to say, I don't really know whether things are supposed to come from committees to the commissioners or from the commissioners to the committee. I've seen it both ways, and I still don't have.
Well, it is both ways. I think it just always will be both ways. There's nothing wrong with that. Just that I don't want, given that we have that very limited time to spend on things, I don't want to spend time on something to recommend that's just going to be rejected out of hand.
Well, I definitely think it's something that the commissioners should talk about. So if you want to talk about it there first, and then they say, sure, you take it to the committee and work out the details, that's fine.
Okay. Well, then if everybody's agreeable to that, that's how I'll go. You're muted, Donna. I see you trying to talk, but.
Okay. Perhaps something to put on the future agenda would be just to facilitate making the best use of our time would be if we had information from the city itself about the city staff, like what's already in the works, so that as a committee, we get into the loop as soon as possible about what's already progressing with streets and transportation. And we know what the staff is doing and that we just have that, perhaps have that information in advance in a written form or something.
Sure. So Kevin, if there's something that is coming up that you know about that we don't, if you would just send me an email and I will communicate to the rest of the committee, or you can send to the whole committee, however you choose.
That'd be fine.
Yep. Okay. All right. So yes, Bruce.
Two things. Put me down on the vote in support of the Sharrow vote that you guys had while I was dealing with a broken laptop. And also, does any of this touch on the streetscape project that I've read about but don't know anything about?
Oh, that's pretty far in the future. That's what I think, hopefully, that with Commissioner Gay, with both of our support, to talk about traffic management study via and the whole streetscape. I mean, it's important because there could be potentially one-way streets, et cetera, and bike lanes, and who knows what. Yeah. I will be our representative on that committee once it starts up. right now it's still in its infancy, and I don't expect that we'll be participating for another month or so.
Is, Pat, do you have anything concrete yet on a water taxi schedule now that the dock's going to be opening?
Yeah, not yet. We're waiting for basically the city commissioners to decide how to contract with, basically maybe what we're going to do, Susan, is just have people will have to pay a license fee if they're a commercial venture to use the dock. It just hasn't been put in place yet, and I'm hoping, because I'm the president of that association, I've had to recuse myself from that. So all I can say is talk to Susan about bringing that forward, as I'm not in the position to do that. I do have, basic information about what I think will happen, but really, I hope that we press forward with those things so it can be, used for water taxi, for eco tours. It'll be open. It can be used for the public because it's free of charge. So as soon as they get the signs down there that are the rules, about, not talking there for length of time and all these safety things that they have to be there for insurance purposes, then it'll be open for public use. But far as commercial use, the city commissioners have to come up with license fees. So then these people can, then commercial ventures can move forward.
And I'm not sure we've been approached yet about any from a water taxi company.
Well, I think that you'll be approached, but I think they want to know what they will have to do. But
What's it going to cost me?
yeah, what
Does it make sense?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Thank you. Okay. Any other comments or things you want to bring to the fore before we end
Are
our
we going
meeting?
to set a date now?
Oh, yes, we need to do that. So it'll be next month, and Mondays are bad for John. Does anybody else have thoughts about?
I'll echo John and say Tuesdays are good.
Okay.
I'm a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday person.
So the
Okay.
first Tuesday is April 6th.
April 6th, how's everybody?
I didn't look at this city calendar though to see what there's already on there.
Be there, anything?
April 6th is the first. April 6th for the first Tuesday.
Yes.
And I'm
That's 10.
moving to Virginia later on this month, so this is my last meeting.
Oh,
That's sad. We're
Yeah.
very sad.
well, really?
Yeah. Yep. It's a fast moving train. We toyed with the idea, in general, our kids now all own property in Fairfax County. They all moved back, and we said we should consider moving there. Our doorbell rings, and it's a real estate agent saying, "Do you want to sell your house?" I have
Your timing is really good on that side.
Well, she was representing the grandson of the guy I bought the house from. He has he has memories of childhood vacations, and he had a lot of money, he wanted to buy it.
I love it. That's great.
We ended up not selling it to him, but to a neighbor who also said, "I'll buy it." And all of a sudden, it came together.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. So
That's amazing. Well, we miss you, Bruce. I haven't spent much time with you, but I will miss you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
same here.
thank you. I'm going to miss
Right.
the area. I love it here, but I want to be near my family too.
Yeah.
We'll see you a lot. You'll come back to visit.
I'm hoping to mooch a bed every now and then from.
I already offered Bruce
Yeah.
in writing. He's got it from me in writing. So there's an
Yeah.
open one there.
So thank you. This has
Very
been,
nice.
and I wish you guys well with it. I'm on board with David's general reminder that we want to be bike friendly, not just tolerate bikes. I think that seems to be the disconnect. A lot of people say, well, we'll figure out a way to tolerate them, but I think we should encourage them.
Yeah, I agree.
It just amazes me the people that complain about bicycles in front of their house, but don't complain about the cars. And here you got like a zero emission thing going down the street that doesn't make any noise.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to relate to.
Yeah. Well, anyway, okay, so.
Commissioner Kalisi, this is Chief Banks. Sorry to interrupt. Tuesday to 6, I was just looking. Tuesdays is really not always good for city. Like Kevin and I, city manager has meetings at 10:30.
How about Wednesdays?
That typically works better, at least for me. I don't know. I don't want to speak for Kevin.
I would agree. I was going to say the same thing. We have a standing every 2 weeks staff meeting at 10:30 on Tuesday morning. So
Yeah, we don't want to conflict with you guys. So
Yeah.
maybe Wednesday is better.
Yeah, Wednesday's fine with me.
7th.
Anything
That's-
else on the calendar, Susan, that you see?
Although there's nothing on the city calendar for the 7th at this point that I can see. So
Let's make it the 7th then. And
Sounds good.
with that, we'll move forward. Bruce, again, thank you so much for your contributions. And if you would send your presentation
I
on
will.
to everyone else, that would be nice.
Commissioner, could I just throw one more?
Yeah.
Thing? In looking over the DelDOT project for that sidewalk on State, it is going to run all the way from Stockley there by the new elementary school, and it'll run all the way down past Lee, past that triangle area where we just put the Welcome to Rehoboth signs, and it'll intersect kind of that driveway at 314 State Road, which is where the sidewalk actually begins now, coming into town on the east side of State Road. So to run that whole distance from kind of the elementary school intersection all the way down past the entryway to Rehoboth.
Okay.
So the west side of State will still be unimproved plain.
That's correct.
and that's only coming up from the south. The north is still, you still have to go around, by the,
Under the bridge.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Back to the new sidewalks, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank
Okay.
you, Megan. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay. All right, everyone. Thanks so much.
Bruce.
Thank
Okay.
you.
thank you for everything, Bruce.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.